So the demographics of female gun ownership have been changing and improving, and really the whole landscape of firearms and the Second Amendment in the United States has been shifting, especially since the great mess of 2020. One of the people that has been really a part of that shift and making sure that this shift is done safely and responsibly with all the care and compassion that is required is somebody named Charneta Samms of Honey Bear Tactical Gut Punch Barbie on Instagram, or however you know her. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the conversation. Quick note, be sure to stay at least until the halfway point because I do have some announcements regarding the show, being that this is the season finale, and let's talk about it right now. Hey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you could be here. I know for those who don't know, and hardly anyone knows, we met probably was it a year ago at this point, or was it 2 years at the USCCA event?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe 2 years ago. 'Cause I didn't go to USCCA this year, so
Yeah. Well, I guess it must have been like a solid like 12 to 18 months at this point. But we met and the oh my gosh, what's your husband's handle on Instagram for those who might
Full
know him?
Metal Sensei.
Full Metal Sensei. It's such a fun name. Anyways, I've been kind of following along with his online journey for a while, but he's not just some influencer. He does some influencer things, going to influencer events here and there. But with the two of you guys run Honey Bear Tactical.
Yes.
So when I met both of you, I was just like, oh man, we got to get you two on the show. Oh, we got to get him on the show. But you were telling me some things about what you were doing, and he was kind of hyping you up. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. We've had so many dudes on the show. Let's get her on the show first. We'll get him on in a few weeks. Let's get her on the show first because we really need to talk about just the huge shift that's happening with women getting into the firearm space. Is it tapering off because we are so far removed from the events of 2020? Like questions like that, they're in my mind. And I just want to talk about what you're doing because I know I guess I'll let you kind of share about it, but you're running the chapter, your local chapter for, what was it called?
A
Um,
girl and a gun.
a girl and a gun. I wrote it right there, and then I'm like, where did I write it? It's right there on the screen. Anyways, a girl and a gun, which is a was it national organization,
Yes, the National Women's Shooting League.
National Women's Shooting League, which
hmm
that's pretty
It's very,
cool.
yes, it's very focused on competition shooting, education, training. So 800 strong. I
Oh
think
my
that's the
gosh,
last number. Chapters in every state.
800 what members or
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was, excuse me, 8,000 members.
oh, excuse me. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Tons,
yeah.
yeah, tons of chapters across the country. I think we have a chapter in every state now, and I run the only chapter in Maryland.
Okay, well, that's a big responsibility. It's always a little crazy when you realize you're a national organization, and something as a place as big as Maryland. I've been there; it's huge. Um, there's like one chapter, and you're basically responsible for all the people who want to join that kind of thing. So that's awesome. Of course, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about yourself because I don't think I can fully do you justice. If you want to just go ahead and share kind of who you are and what you're all about.
Sure. I'm an Army civilian by day, and on the weekends and at night, and when I can, I love to shoot. I'm a firearms instructor, NRA and USCCA certified. I'm also a USCCA training counselor. And I started the Girl in the Gun chapter 2 years ago because I was tired of being the only woman at the range. I was usually the only girl at the range in training classes, and I just thought, wow, why aren't there more women out here? This is so much fun. I started shooting probably like going on maybe 8 9 years, And so it was something we started doing. Me and Fullmetal Sensei started doing together when we first met. I've always had an interest, but never anybody that could really teach me. And so it was something he was passionate about. He's been doing it for more than 20 years. And so he started teaching me. And then I was like, wow, this is great. I want to learn more. I want to own my own guns. And it just kind of ran with it. And then so the passion behind bringing other women into firearms is just kind of selfish, in that I want more women to see more women out there and doing their thing. And then as the world got more crazy, I was like, wow, this is nuts. I think women need a place to come and train, and we can hang out and network and socialize together and talk about the challenges we as women have in the firearms industry. And so I found a Girl in the Gun, which is again a national organization, and thought it was awesome. I met Robin Sandoval, and she's an amazing person running the chapter, running the whole organization. And so I just thought it was something I wanted to do. And since there was no chapter in Maryland, I thought that'd be great. Here I am. So of course we would love to have more chapters in Maryland, but right now it's just me holding it down in the Baltimore area.
Wow, wow,
And then
wow,
also
wow.
we started, yeah, and we also started Honey Bear Tactical 2 years ago because we were passionate about training. Never something we thought we would, make money off of. It's just really more a passion project and a way to make money for guns and ammo.
Of course, that isn't that the thing. You gotta. A lot of people they don't really do it for money, like hobbies and whatnot. But when you find that your hobby can somewhat pay for itself, although I know you guys have expensive taste. I mean, we have the CZ Parrot behind you. I know Full Metal Sensei, he loves the staccatos, and I'm not sure he pays for them anymore. But if he had to, I mean, even the ammo alone, I was like, man, I was looking down at my ammo case, and I was like, I'm a little light on 9. I guess I should. I'm like, how much money is it to? How much is it to? Oh my gosh, I got to. Oh.
I now start counting things in cases of ammo.
Right? You
Like,
just count it by the case.
what? That's like 3 cases of ammo. What you talking about?
Right.
No.
And they're like, wait, that's how much? No, we ain't about to go eat at. That's how many.
Mm-mm. That's a half a case of ammo.
Right. That's hilarious. I love that. So, kind of getting back to what you guys are doing, something that I think we struggle with in the 2A Second Amendment community, and because the 2A community can be really adjacent to a lot of communities that are kind of a little bit dogmatic in the way that they think and operate, and can be really kind of like one way. And hive minds start to happen, which is funny because we talk about things like honey and hives, and it's a bad dad joke. I'm sorry. It's late. Anyways, so point being is, do people give you crap for running a female focused organization? Do they say, well, why don't you invite some guys out? Or, I mean, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but do people give you a hard time with that?
Sometimes the guys do, mainly because they're jealous about the opportunities we get. So it's like, for example, the Girls in the National Organization hosted what we call Drift Academy, and so we were at the Virginia International Raceway. We got to shoot from cars and shoot around cars and drive around racetracks with cars really fast and learn how to drive defensively. And so every guy that heard I was doing that was just like, "That is so unfair. Why can't I go?" And I'm like, "Cause you're not a girl. Sorry." So a lot of
Golly.
times it's really about the opportunities we get. There's so many firearms manufacturers who are very interested in appealing to women and want to market to women. So those great opportunities that we get, and Robin's amazing at making connections and networking to get us those awesome opportunities. So that makes it really fun. But I try to explain that it's really important that women have a safe space, and also say that so we just have a girl and a gun. Guys have the rest of the world.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is a boy and a gun.
No, but you're not wrong. Especially, people get so. I'm like, I don't know if you can tell, but it's frustrating for me to have these conversations because we go from like, oh yeah, let's get more people into shooting. Let's make sure that we can have a strong Second Amendment. So when the anti-gun gun grabber, whatever political party you think they're associated with, it seems like it's everyone. Everyone's after the guns. When they come after us, let's have the strongest coalition possible. Except
Absolutely.
when we start kind of saying, and maybe you haven't run into it as much, but I find that a lot of ladies, when they start their online careers or their in-person careers that sometimes turn into online careers of training and shooting and really focusing on ladies, it can be it's a little bit annoying with some of the rhetoric. Like, well, I mean, like what you said, it's sometimes it's not that serious. Sometimes it's just we're just a little jealous, right? We want to shoot we want to shoot from cars. We want to shoot from car. I mean, I do,
Absolutely. But
but
I do feel like there is a market that's kind of missing in the sense that, unfortunately, sometimes the firearms community can be very male driven and testosterone driven. And I feel
mhm,
bad for new guys coming into shooting. Like, if you're a
yeah,
guy and you've never shot before, you kind of go into it and you're almost in the same position. It's just like you don't know enough to really be able to hang with some of the more seasoned
hmm,
professionals in the shooting world. So it's like, where is your safe space?
right. And that is the space for like new shooters. And I've met some instructors who they especially appeal to new shooters, but like, are there any gun clubs that are especially designed where like everybody's going into it knowing like, hey, if I'm a seasoned guy, I'm here because I want to help these guys along. They don't know anything. Maybe they're a little bit arrogant. Maybe they think they know everything, but I'm here to help them along, not to bully them into getting my exact holster set up, but to kind of help them along, really. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I see that. Like you said, there's a bit of a void. Maybe you've seen it in some context.
Yeah, I know with the Maryland 10th Cavalry Gun Club is another. I'm the treasurer of that club. We're an African American focused gun club, and we try to be very open with new shooters and new people joining the community. And as we're now a 501c3 organization, we're really trying to establish ourselves in the community, focusing on education. So we will be a more of an advocate for new shooters and a home for new shooters and something they can do. And we're really excited about the event we're going to host in October on the 14th called Sisters Shoot, which is where we focus predominantly on women new shooters. And
Mm.
so we have women new shooters coming out. We're going to have 100 ladies come out. I've got sponsors from a couple of different firearms manufacturers and companies that have donated generously to our cause. And so we're really excited about that. And that's a event we host every year. And so we kind of got into an argument amongst the board members where they're like, well, we should open this up to guys too. And I was like, it's called Sisters Shoot. So while we definitely won't turn any men away who are interested in coming, it's really focused on the ladies. And so we want to get more women into our club and into the firearms, learning how to use firearms responsibly.
Absolutely. No, I think that's super important. In fact, I think it's just as fine to have, guys' nights, although probably less important in the grand scheme of things, just because almost every night is guys' night. you know,
Every night is guys' night at the range.
Yeah, right. But I appreciate ranges and different organizations that get together and say like, hey, let's do something cool for said group of people who kind of identify together, or it's like, hey, we're guys or we're dads, or like
Mhm.
churches do it. Why can't we do it? But people get tight and they're like, well,
Absolutely.
and I
There is
think
a
the
gentleman
culture
who
wars
does
kind of jumped in that. Well, go ahead, man.
a gentleman out of Philly on oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I don't remember his name or his Instagram handle, but I believe he does something every Father's Day. It's for
Ooh.
dads. He brings them to the range and they have a good time. So there's people out there doing cool stuff. We just need to hype them up.
Yeah, it's interesting because I found that although I do have quite a bit of freedom to go shoot and record, because I also do the gun tuber thing with Armed Atlas. I found there is some unique challenges to having small kids, and even finding guys who can relate to you, who aren't like, oh man, why can't you get up to the range every single Saturday? Well, because my wife's got this and I've got this, and then we got two little kids in the house running around, and I don't really want to bring them to the range. Like that's just not where they're going to do well. They're like too small. So, although some people would argue with me.
And that's a big challenge, particularly for women, because women
Hmm.
typically have most of the responsibility when it comes to childcare. I have tons of women who are like, I would love to do this more frequently, but it's hard to find a babysitter. It's hard to do this. Women, we tend to prioritize everything over what we want. So we're always constantly giving, 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 and not making time and space for the things that give us joy or help us take care of ourselves. So
Mm.
I understand that, and I'm just going to keep hosting events, and they'll come when they can, and they when they don't, and they miss out. But they always come back. So it's good to be able to see that. But the other thing is also that I tend to see that women want to take training before they take training. So a woman has to feel like she knows a certain amount before she comes out to an event. So I have to kind of overcome that. Like, no, you don't need to know anything. Just come. I've got you. I'll
Mm.
take care of you. You'll have a great time.
But isn't that a beautiful thing where you can actually communicate that to them, or even understand that that is something that happens in the mind of a lady who it's like, okay, like you say, like they it the I guess the societal default is, all right, if you're a mom, wife, woman, whatever you consider yourself, you're in charge of the kids, like 125%. Like, yeah, like to the point where I was at church today, and they were like, "All right, dads, let make sure wife can come to this event, and watch the kids." I'm like, wait, isn't that? Why do you have to? I don't think we need an announcement to tell dads to watch their kids.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
you have to be
their
able to
kids.
babysit your kids.
Go babysit. No, babysit. I'm not babysitting my kids. Like it's my kids. Like, but I don't know. Maybe some guys struggle with that just because of just the way society's kind of just defaulted, and maybe they don't feel as nurturing on the inside. Maybe. And for those who are watching live, can you guys just go ahead and let us know if the levels are okay? Sometimes it's hard to know just in the pre-recording, so um, let us know if we sound okay. That said, if you have any questions for Charneta and her process and all the things that she does, feel free to drop them into the comment section on the live. Okay, so let's get back to you. I know you said you've kind of noted some unique roadblocks to, I guess, joining or bringing women into the gun space. Are there any more, or would you say there's even some, I guess, unique advantages to ladies getting into the space, or would you say there's just more roadblocks than anything?
I think there's definitely a lot more encouragement for women to get into firearms these days. A lot more companies marketing to women, making products that will appeal to women, not always in a good way, but hey, at least they're trying. And I think making it more of a safe space. Girl in the Gun is not the only organization. We're probably the best, of course, but making space and time and activities to encourage women. Competition shooting is another passion of mine, and so that one's another challenge too, in the sense of when a woman feels ready to get to that level of shooting. So it's like they feel like they have to be a certain level. But I think it's a good thing and a bad thing in the sense that women are very concerned. And I'm going to say typically because I don't like to stereotype all women because we're not all exactly the same. But we tend to be more of a, I want to be at a certain level before I move on to the next thing, which
Mm.
is good in the sense of, you're going to have safe shooters. You're going to have people that are really focused on learning and building their skill sets. But then it also kind of holds us back because we're waiting for a level that our male counterparts typically don't. Like men will be like, "Oh, I shot once 25 years ago. Of course, I can join this competition and kill it and win the whole thing." So it's like
Mm-mm-mm.
they're trying things that we're not willing to because of the certain level of skill we're expecting ourselves to be at before we participate.
Wow. Yeah. No. Actually, I absolutely hear where you're coming from, especially on the guys' end, right? Where it's like, yeah, I know guns. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What's your build drill time? It's like, oh, you have no idea. Oh, okay,
Bill Joe, what's up, Bill
what's a
Joe?
Billy?
Oh, my favorite one is I'll ask a guy, like, what kind of gun do you have? A 9 millimeter.
Oh,
Kind of
triggered.
9 millimeter.
I'm so triggered right now. No, and but that's what we have to deal with. Just I think just as a gun community and a society, we got to kind of break some of that down and just let people know, like, hey, you ain't got to do all that, okay? Like, you really don't have to pretend or act like you know more than you do. It's unnecessary. It's completely
Mhm.
unnecessary. Like, we will love you and accept you just the way you are. At least those of us who know what we're doing, and the rest of us will struggle, right? So,
Right. I mean, I've found the gun community to be so welcoming. Race, creed, color doesn't matter.
mm-hmm,
Gender. Very, very few people have I met that were jerks. Like most people are just so welcoming, and we're like happy that somebody enjoys what we enjoy. And so
Hmm.
I always say like gun people are drug dealers. Like we just want everybody to be on hooked on the same thing we're hooked
So
on.
first one's free. No, I remember the
Exactly.
first time, and actually my guy Nate, I think he was there when this happened. But the first time someone just randomly at the range was like, "Hey, come shoot this gun," we were, I think I was still up in Virginia, and we were renting some guns, and the guy was like shooting this big old like World War II era wooden stock. I don't know if it was an M1 or I think it might have been something bolt action actually. So definitely not that, but we man, he was like, "Hey, you guys want to shoot this?" And I was like, "Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get it done." Yeah, so that was awesome. Where really you don't know how it's going to be, especially if you've never really kind of been involved. Maybe you went with somebody to their farm once upon a time. It's just kind of like an exclusive experience. And even beyond that, I've had people get really, especially when specifically black people started getting into guns. When I say started getting into guns, when there was a big shift to more and more people shifting the demographics of the Second Amendment space in like 2020, 2021 ish, people got a little weird because they weren't quite as used to, I guess, feeling so welcome in spaces that are kind of more country,
Hmm.
more conservative, and it's like, oh, so there's a training some like 50 miles south of the city, and it's just kind of in the woods on somebody's farm, and in private range, and you're just gonna go. Like, what if they do something to you? Well, that's not generally a concern, but I could
Right.
understand if you've never been around people before, especially like people that you maybe have had some predispositions about,
I've
that
seen too
maybe
many
this is
movies.
right. I mean, I don't know. The world is so connected, so you do see kind of like a concentrated amount of like crazy stuff. And so
Oh
I,
yeah.
I can understand there being concern, right? But when they start seeing more and more pictures online of like, oh man, there's this group of guys that are out shooting on some range out in the country, and they just did a 2 day rifle course or a 2 day carbine course, a 2 day carbine course, and they did the group photo at the end, and it's like 9 white dudes and like another 2 Latino brothers and another 4 black dudes, and they're all happy and they're all together, and they have that sense of camaraderie. I think there's something beautiful about that, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, we can come together and have a lot of mutual respect for each other, because the only thing that matters at a certain point, like even if there is some weirdness in the beginning, even if there was, but at a certain point, the only thing that matters is, can you shoot, and can
Exactly.
you run that gun,
Exactly.
so that's
Yeah.
great.
If we can just get a couple more women in that picture, that'd be great.
Right, and that is the thing, because every once in a while you will see like one or two, and they're
Hmm.
usually like either like just straight up icons or something. Like, I don't know that I've been on the online gun scene for a while, producing podcasts, gun tubing a little bit, following people on Instagram, and from what I've seen, there's like 3 types of women who shoot. The type of woman there's the woman who shoots and you would never know because they're not really public with it.
Hmm.
The gun bunny, who maybe they can shoot, maybe they can't, but because of, I guess, their style of delivery with their gun content, you don't really know. You just know that they like to pose and hang out and go to events. And then there's like the hardcore, like tactical games, competition shooter, or they're an instructor or something like that. So I guess there's like 4.
Right. I was gonna say, am I a gun bunny?
I didn't say it. You said it. I'm sure. I'm sure Sensei said it at some point. But but
There
that's
are guy gun. There are definitely guy gun bunnies.
oh, that's me. That's me all day.
They're strapping out there with the guns, with the hoochie daddy shorts.
Oh my
Absolutely.
god, bro! Night vision at a Whataburger, right? Oh my gosh, and it's hilarious. I mean, I think it's like, is it for fun? Like I try to like sometimes understand like people's motivation for doing things, and it's kind of a dangerous place to be because you can never really know, right? But I'm like, okay, so for the bros who are out there kind of like frat broing it up in the gun world, like what are they getting out of it? Are they getting faster? Are they getting stronger? Are they do they feel a better sense of, you know, I guess self defense? Is it just for the community? Because life can be really boring if you don't have some sort of community in it. In fact, I was having a conversation about death and life and meaning, and it's just one of those real existential conversations. And I was like, man, like, what is life without something, like whether it's a kid or a really meaningful job or something you can volunteer at? Like, what is life? And some, you see guys who they're running into issues of self harm versus the ladies' numbers are entirely different. Sometimes I wonder about that, but I don't want to get too deep into that. Maybe we'll talk about that on the next show. But I don't know. Do you feel like women seek gun, I guess, togetherness? What do they call it? Like joining like a firearms club or a class? Are they doing it for community? Are they doing it for, I guess, learning self defense? Like, what are some of the main drivers that bring girls into the space from what you've seen?
Community is absolutely one thing, but I think there's always this interest that kind of is behind it. So it's like a funny story. I was at work, and I'm very open at work about my love of guns and what I do.
Yeah.
And I had a woman come up to me after a meeting, and she was like, "I like guns too." And I was like, "Why whispering?" So I think
Yo.
there's this level of interest where maybe it's for self defense purposes, or just you've seen movies and you just it's interesting. And then to find out that there's other women who are interested too, or maybe other women who are as passionate about it as you. So then it becomes this big community thing. And that's what Girl in the Gun is all about. It's like it's our safe space where we know that we can just bug out with our guns out and nobody will judge anything. And you come and you just meet these awesome ladies, a lot of them 60, 70, 80-year-old women who are out there killing it, shooting three-gun competitions,
Wow.
um, teaching, instructing, cowboy shooting. I mean, it's just awesome. Like I'm not a big fan of shotguns. Like that's not my platform of choice, but I force myself to learn it and practice. And I've met women that are like, I love shotguns. I don't want to shoot anything but shotguns. I'm like, what? So I think the community is really a huge aspect of it
Yeah.
because like when you're with men, like and I don't mind hanging out with guys. I like shooting with guys too, but there's just something about shooting with other women. It's just like different.
Yeah.
It hits different, and I'm sure guys feel that way too. Like sometimes you guys want to be guys, you want to just hang out with guys. I get it. And then
Yeah.
having one girl there, you think you got to watch what you say and what you do. Not around me, but other women maybe. So I think it's just like having your kind of own community
Mm-hmm.
really does speak to something. But women are getting, I think a lot more women are getting into, at least the women, ladies in my chapter, are a lot about self defense. They're just scared.
Yeah.
They want to be able to defend themselves and their families.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of these like during 2020, like crime statistics changed entirely. Like there was less, um, I guess, killing people, but other things shifted around. And then after they let everybody back out into the streets, let people back out. I was always out here. I just didn't tell y'all. Um, when they let people back out, the numbers went right back up. I guess because when people, in the summer heat start walking around, they just can't control themselves. And that's my question is: are they concerned about random strangers, like when you're at a stoplight and there's some weirdo, I say weirdo, strange looking person walking across it's like a red light. Like, why are you walking? But they're walking across the cars, and it's like, should I lock my door? Should I not? Are they concerned about that? Or are they concerned about like partner violence, or what are they? What are they concerned about?
I think a lot of the women I talk to is more about the just random person on the street just wanting to do
Mm-hmm.
harm to women. I mean, we're seeing more and more violence against women as a
Yeah.
whole. And so it's kind of scary to be out there. I mean, it's we could talk about other things that are attack on women, but for the most part, just being able to say, I'm a woman in this world, I should be able to defend myself
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what they're saying. I mean, I
Yeah. I
know for
mean,
me, the turning point for me in carrying a gun on my person every day was the fact that I realized that the police can't be everywhere. They're
Yeah.
more of a reactive measure. They're called when something bad has happened to try to catch the bad guy, or they're called, to clean up the mess. Like, it's just an after the fact. They can't be everywhere at all times, and they can't possibly get there all the time to save you in an instant. So, what are you going to do to defend yourself in the meantime?
I'd be really curious to see the number of, I guess, 911 calls that lead to a response where the person was actually saved in time versus the latter or whatever. Did they have to escape? Did they have to defend themselves? Were they found in a puddle of goo? Like what? And I don't mean to trivialize people's like suffering, but like
Right.
what what are the numbers? Because at this point, I really cannot what's the word? Outsource my. I can't afford to outsource my self defense. Like I can't have three grown men, walking around with me at all times. I have to do that myself, and especially for my family. And I'll tell you what, I want to shift the conversation slightly, unless you can answer that with the statistics. But
I don't have that number.
right. Like who knows? And I'd be curious if there's somebody who can hit me up later on, or maybe I'll just go on the FBI website and see if they record that kind of thing. They probably don't. But I was in an urgent care the other day. One of my kids got rhinovirus. I was like, oh, good look at you. You're about to become a Spider-Man supervillain. Rhinovirus. It sounds insane.
Oh,
But it's really rough on little kids, especially now, like post 2020, where it really attacks the respiratory system and it makes it so they really have a hard time. So we're like, all right, let's just go ahead and get this taken care of because I'm not going to be the parent who waited too long and then we have regrets. Like no regrets. So went ahead, spent my money, went to the urgent care. They were so nice. They were so nice, and we had it was a hospitality ER. Highly recommend. They're not paying me to say this, but highly recommend them just because they got snacks and they brought me a sandwich. And like there's like a restaurant across the street. I guess they get sandwiches catered like on a daily, and they're like, "Oh, we're getting sandwiches. You want one?" I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And
wow.
they have like a hospitality manager who comes in and checks on you like 12 times while you're there, depending on how long you're there. And a masseuse comes in for neck massages.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I should probably get sick more often and go to hospitality ER. Just stress. I'm stressed. Hey, can I get that neck massage?
Great.
And
Great.
pass me that apple juice while
Preventative
you're at
care.
it.
It's preventative care.
Right. Preventative, right? There's a tab in my insurance for that. So, point of me bringing that up is there was a sign on the door that basically said it's one of the Texas state signs that businesses, private entities, hospitals are allowed to have that basically prevent you from bringing a firearm in, whether it's concealed or open. There are some that determine which one you can do, like some are open carry permitted, some are concealed carry only, and some are like, no, don't bring it in here at all. And anytime I see that, if I'm forced to disarm, I'm not saying I did, but if they're telling me to, I always have to ask questions. I'm like, I go to the staff who has nothing to do with it. I'm like, hey, did you see that sign on the door?
Hmm.
Do you feel safe? Does that make
Right.
you feel safe? And now I seem like a psychopath, right? And that gives you power. So,
Right. Right.
but what I asked the young lady, I was like, hey, do you did you know there was a no guns sign listed on the door? And I opened it up so that she could answer freely and clearly without feeling like I had some agenda. I was like, hey, I do some research from time to time, so I just curious. How does that make you feel? Do you feel safer? Do you feel less safe? Do you feel just as safe knowing that there's a sign on the door that tells anyone who's about to enter the establishment, don't bring a gun in here? And she's, unfortunately, I don't think she really thought about it. I later found out she's kind of young, like just got out of high school type. And she was like, oh, I think I feel somewhat safe. And then she went into a little bit more detail and said that they have like an armed police presence on the premises. So it's like, okay, it's not like there's no help in case something crazy happens. But she said because of the types of clients that come in, patients who they might be under the influence of something or might be on the verge of passing out, you don't want to have firearms that are not completely under their control. And I suppose insurance and being able to make sure your staff are fully trained to be able to handle firearms, that could be a concern if one were to be out of somebody's control. I mean, there are concerns there too. And I was like, I
Well,
I can understand some of that logic there, but also on the other side, one of those patients could come in or come back because they're mad about something and just air the place out, like shooting up the club. And you're like, what? What's happening?
right. Because they
So
know the likelihood of somebody else having a gun in there is slim to none.
slim to none, especially because people don't want to get caught up like with like state or federal charges. Like nobody has time to serve hard time because you wanted to, exercise your Second Amendment right. Like nobody has time for that. So my thing is like, man, I understand her thought process where maybe she's not thinking of it like super deeply, like a Second Amendment person or like an instructor like yourself. Are you seeing that kind of logic coming from people, I guess, coming into the space? Do they think like that, or are they open to hearing some of the arguments for why that shouldn't? Do you guys even have those conversations in your clubs and groups?
Absolutely, we have the conversation. There are women on both sides of camp who are like, I need to carry my gun everywhere I go. Doesn't matter. Of course, not breaking the laws or anything, but are very strongly supportive of the Second Amendment. And then some women are like, Second Amendment, what's that? And so I tend those women tend to be on the side of, and I'll say not just women, but those people tend to be on the side of living in the white, nothing bad ever happens. La 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 la, living in the world, not realizing what's going on around them. And then when people start getting into firearms and understanding the rules and situation awareness and all the other things we talk about, and now that you're carrying a deadly weapon on your person all the time, you need to carry yourself in the world differently, kind of changing their mindset in that regard. I mean, I know I used to be one of those people who lived in the white. Nothing bad to never happened to me. I mean, what? I'm a nice person. There's no way. So it's really important to think about those things. I definitely have women that still come to me and say, "Well, I don't want to kill anybody. I just want to shoot them in the leg, or I just want to." Yeah. So it's just like, no, I'm sorry. Then you're not ready to carry a gun. Not that we're out wanting to, use the K word, but actually self defense is about stopping the threat. And so, like, trying to explain that, shooting somebody in the leg does not necessarily mean you're going to preserve their life. You know how hard it is to shoot somebody in the leg when they're running or moving after you. And so, just kind of getting them to understand that, and then letting people know it's okay. You're not ready. That's fine. It's a journey, and I know people hate hearing that, but it really is a journey. So it's important to really think about those things, and we do have lots of conversations about them because people are all different spaces in their journey of firearms ownership. Some women don't want to carry one on their person; they just want to have it in the home for self defense. Of course, get into the debate of one in the chamber versus not. That's a fun one to always discuss. So it's just, I think going back to that, it's like, yeah, people are in different places, and I tend to see the ones who are still kind of early in the journey tend to be like, oh, well, that's the law. It is what it is. They're just trying to keep us safe. Versus people who are a little further on are like, that's an infringement of my right to defend myself, and are very vocal and advocate about that. And so that's why the DC Project, which is another organization I'm a part of, is
Love
phenomenal.
DC Project. I didn't
Yeah,
realize you were part of that with Diana.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Um, every time they have a great event, I'm usually at work, but luckily I'm going to be able to make the next event, so I'm excited about that. But they are doing such amazing work in representing the woman's point of view in regards to the Second Amendment. So love what Diane's doing with DC Project. So it's super important that we do that and keep having those difficult conversations, because I think that's what's really important, is everybody can understand. And then back to what we were talking about earlier, making space for it. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes in the firearms community, we are so like one over on something. Like it's either yes or no.
Hmm.
It's never, it's black or white. It's never any gray. And we don't make space for people that might have different opinions. Like,
Yeah.
I am just about the Second Amendment, but that is not the only thing I vote by.
Hmm.
I mean, I like, for me, and this might be controversial, but I earned my right to carry a firearm. I mean, they defended my Second Amendment right and took away my right to an abortion, like in the same week. So it's
Right,
like,
and that's a big conversation for a lot of people.
right.
And I I wonder, and for me, my convictions lead me in a lot of different ways. But I wonder for all the single issue voters that are in the I guess Second Amendment space, and people who are like, yeah, make sure we keep Republicans in office because they'll be the greatest defenders of our Second Amendment rights. A lot of the times they have not been. First of all, like let's just address that. And on a lot of other issues, we have guys like, and I'm not endorsing this candidate or everything they've ever said, but you have guys like RFK who they've said some things that are kind of ambiguous about Second Amendment rights. You're like, well, I don't really. He's not really for a bunch of guns being out there, but he's not going to actively assault your Second Amendment rights. But also, we've had a lot of politicians say that they're going to come for ARs and AKs, and all you need is a double barrel pump shotgun, and they want to cut you down to 10 rounds. And really, if they could cut you down to 3 rounds, they'd be happy with that too. So that's, I suppose there's a lot of questions with that. And I think you're right to ask, like, hey, like for me and my convictions and the things that I find important, what, politically, what should I be looking at? Who should I be supporting? Who should I be talking about in conversation? Because half of the political, I guess, energy that happens is just like grassroots, just conversation with your buddies at the, salon or at lunch or wherever you are, right? And I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's something that people, especially in the 2A space, we have a hard time with. You're either, with us or against us. Like, oh, you don't see the point in open carrying an AR-15? Well, then, you're not with us. You're a commie,
Right.
It's like, well, I think you should be able to have a tank in your front yard. Well, I do too, except that I understand why people would be against it. Some people are
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, there's this it's a fine line because it's like it's not all or nothing, and it's like
Yeah.
they talk about responsible gun laws and things like that, and it's like, but if you dig into thinking about what we're really trying to achieve, I feel like there's a lot of times we're not talking about the right things. Like
Mm.
guns are tools. They're a means to do something. They're effective tools and means of doing certain things. But why don't we talk about the fact that people want to hurt other people? Like
Ooh.
there's some serious issues going on in this world where people want to hurt other people. Like that's disturbing to me. I don't care the method.
Yeah.
The fact that people want to do that is just disturbing, and it's something that's been going on for forever and ever. But it just seems like, I don't know if it's just getting more press, and because we have more means to understand what's going on across the globe, we see it more. But it just seems like
Hmm.
there are more and more people out here in the world interested in hurting other people, and
Right.
to me, that's what we need to be talking about. How do we fix that?
I think about, for some reason, every time we talk about like the conversation of evil and bad things happen, I'm transported to like the girls' schools in Africa, when whichever country, it was at Uganda or something like that, and then you hear, oh, these warlords and gangs came and they kidnapped 300 girls from a school, and you're like, what? How is this happening? Why does nobody? And it's not in the news for more than 2 days. I mean, really more than a day. Like you get the headline one time, it's not the headline. It's really like page 2 stuff, and then it's gone after that. And then maybe you might hear an update. Oh, they were all murdered. Oh, okay. That's insane. Like, why are we not more concerned about that? And then we have, and not like we can change the world, or can we? Because we do have a lot of power and influence. But then we go to situations here where you're saying, oh, wow, this one kid literally went to, a club targeting people. Okay, this one person literally in some hood in the middle of the south side of Chicago, shot up a funeral. You're like, you shot up a funeral? Like, what's wrong? What is
Who
wrong
hurt
with you?
you? What happened? Right? Yeah.
Death on
Those
death on death?
Yeah, those are
And
the
then
conversations I feel like we need to have more of. Like,
we
what is
absolutely
going
do.
on?
And I think we use it as a scapegoat, though. Like, we talk about, oh, well, all the gun deaths in America are really primarily, gang activity. It's like, well, maybe we should address that, Oh, and it's all suicide. Well, maybe we should address that. Like, I don't mean to be dramatic, but like, maybe we should at least have a conversation about like,
Let's
can we
talk
do
about
something just collectively? I'm paying a lot of tax dollars for F-35s to go missing, so maybe we should take like half that money and invest it into, like financial literacy courses, conflict resolution courses for the people who are like, responsible and really want to make it happen. Not everybody loves him, but Maj Toure up in Philly, he a big thing of what he does is conflict resolution courses along with firearms classes, which I think is incredibly important and almost irresponsible if you don't do it like that. But I'm
that.
not going to put that on everyone, especially because
Yeah,
those classes are
everybody's
free.
not trained to do that.
Right, right. Like that's a lot. It's a
Hmm.
lot. So I appreciate that that's been a priority for him. And now, speaking of conflict resolution, is that something that you guys address at all in like when you're doing courses or classes or get-togethers with ladies? Like, is that something that comes up, or are the girls you guys hanging out, women that you guys hang around, are they just really just all like beacons of light and love?
I wish I could say that, but we do have a lot of talk, a lot of conversations about the legal use of force,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Use of
making sure
force is
people,
important.
yeah, absolutely, making sure they understand that because sometimes there are people like women can be hotheads too, and and so some of them I've talked to women like I don't need to own a gun because I don't want to hurt people. Like my temper is like that. So we do have those real conversations about are you a person with a temperament that will allow you to be judicious in understanding when your life is really at risk and you need to defend yourself versus something else. And so we have those conversations, especially in our classes. And in Maryland, come October 1st, that will definitely be something that has to be taught in all of our classes. So legal use of force is absolutely something we always talk about. But then the conversations about de-escalation and suicide prevention and things like that are going to be requirements in future courses. But with the ladies and when we have our girl on the gun meetings, definitely those kind of things come up in conversation, like talking about scenarios and what situations that people have been in and understanding that situation awareness is really important, especially now that you are trained and carry a firearm. So I really enjoy those conversations because even though we make light of them and try to bring some levity to the conversation, it's important. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
critical because there's so many implications. Not only could you be in a situation where you take somebody's life, but you now have to deal with the mental anguish around that and second guessing whether or not you did the right thing and the legal ramifications and the financial ramifications and the physical ramifications. Like there's so much that goes into that. And I don't think people understand that we don't take that lightly. Somebody who's
Mm.
choosing to put a gun on their body and carry it every day doesn't take that lightly typically. And so I definitely make sure that people understand the gravity of what they're talking about doing and what they're doing and make sure they understand the responsibility around that. And so those are conversations we have. Like this is now a responsibility that you're taking on. It's not just fun. If you just want to shoot guns for fun and you leave them in the safe and don't carry it on your person. But if you're going to carry around a gun every day, then now you have a new level of responsibility of education, de-escalation, and understanding and maintaining your own mental state in a way that you will only, God forbid, never have to use that tool in order to defend yourself.
That's awesome. Thank you for stating that. I did want to highlight Cassandra J in the comment section said I firmly agree with TUI advocates using their influence to get support around mental health issues. It's huge. I'm not sure what it was. Was it the advent of the cell phone or the smartphone, or was it the fact that we just don't go outside as much as we should, or the industrial revolution? What was it that caused us to, maybe it's just us knowing about it more, but just going into just such steep decline, just together as in, the numbers just keep going up and up and up as they're recorded more. People hurting themselves and people really being willing to hurt others for something that 6 months later they're just like, wow, I really said that and did all that. Well, yeah, buddy. And now you're in court and you're crying, but you killed all those people. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
think social media, while it connected us as a world and a global community more, has significant detrimental effects on people. I mean, there are just like, I think back to my high school days and middle school days, and if you were the kid that got made fun of, and called you some funny name, it just lasted that school year, and the next school year, new kids came in, and you had a chance to rebuild yourself. But now kids are cyberbullied. Like, not just your school knows about this horrible nickname that some bully gave you, but now everybody in the world knows because they posted it on social media. So it's like
Hmm.
and the things that people will say to someone on social
Hmm.
media,
Oh,
like,
it's
would you
rough.
say that to somebody's face?
I hope
Would you
not.
tell someone to hurt themselves to their face? I
I
mean, some people would, but I would say not. Like, I call them keyboard gangsters. Like,
Yeah,
how dare you be in a position where you would say something like that to someone simply because you're hiding behind a screen and a keyboard?
right.
Like, come on, if you were to say it to somebody's face, then don't type it. But it's just like this anonymity. Can't say
Amenity,
the word. Yes,
amenity.
that people get being on a computer or on their phone or something. I think gives people this right they think they have to say whatever they want to people.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair. It's just not right.
Some people, and part of when you were talking about, I guess, the connected world of cyberbullying,
Mhm.
um, we also have the crazy unbridled ability for everyone to become a star. Like YouTube was one thing, but now that TikTok is so powerful, um,
Yes.
anyone can literally create an account, post a few videos, do something dumb, do something interesting, do something stupid. I saw one video of this girl handed somebody a phone and she was on the beach, and then all of a sudden she just started bear crawling towards a group of people and started growling. And now she's probably gone viral because that's
Oh yeah. That's
hilarious and
millions of views
awful
right
at the
there.
same
Oh
time.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what? You did
I'm gonna
what? Like,
go
I'm
search that
talking about
video.
it.
How many people are now searching for that video right now?
Right, like right now. Like, so the power. And now she's probably got at least 100 people in the comment section, like as we speak, telling her that she's a psycho and horrible, and that she should do something bad to herself, and that she should have never been born, and she's got an ugly left eye. I saw one video of a girl who had like an off-colored eye. Like one was blue and the other one was like hazel with a little bit of blue on the side or something like that. And somebody was like, "Something's wrong with your eyes," and everybody else was like, "What are you talking about?" Which is great, but like, bro, like, leave people alone.
You don't think she knows that? Like, what value did you just bring to this woman's life?
Right,
But
now she's probably trying to dismiss it, but maybe thinking about it like just a little bit, like really
right,
people still talking about this, and it's just one layer of stress. Even if it's
yeah,
not super stressful, it's just an if she had to waste mental space on it, that's
absolutely.
too much. Um,
I get really frustrated because concealed carry is a big issue for anybody
oh
who's carrying.
yeah,
I mean, and being a larger size woman, I have my own personal challenges with concealed carry. But there's communities where people talk about how they can still carry, and then the first thing that somebody who's larger size posts and wants a little help with getting some concealed carry recommendations, the first thing people tell them is, "Well, you need to lose some weight."
oh
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Never in a million years did I think that was something I needed to do. I was like, so I can't carry a gun on my person until I lose weight? Like, I've now lost my Second Amendment right because I'm fat? Like, come on, that's crazy. Like, why would we not encourage people in a way that's helpful and useful? Like, it's just like we're just waiting for an opportunity to put somebody down. I don't know if it makes people feel better about themselves, but I'm like, if I don't agree or I dislike something, I just move to the next post. I don't feel the need to leave some negative comment. Like, why?
my gosh, no, I absolutely detest that. Not because it's not something that it makes sense that that's a question or a concern for really anyone, especially as we're all kind of struggling with our weight in our own ways, unless you're just, chronically skinny, right? But,
And even those people struggle too. They don't. Some
right,
people are
because they
too.
can't carry just everything, right? I actually had one of
Exactly.
my boys, he was just ultra petite, and he was trying to carry a Glock 19, and it wasn't working for. He just went and bought a tier one concealment holster, which those are expensive.
Yeah.
Put an
That's what
RMR on his thing, got a light with the laser set up, which I think it was one of
And
those. I think it was a
he rocked
reputable
out.
brand, but
Right, right,
he
right.
was excited. We would go to the range all the time. He's like, "Man, I got my setup back that I wanted because he had moved out of his parents' house, and those were his parents' guns at first, and he couldn't carry it. He really couldn't carry it. It was just too much up front, which
Mhm.
I don't know. It was so I get it, and I do want to talk about a few different things. But before we do that, we do need to take a break and talk about the future of this channel.
Awesome.
So, guys, no, that's not the one I want. Normally, we'd be talking about Obsidian Tactics right now, and if you do want to buy something from Obsidian Tactics, you can use the code Armed Atlas and actually get free shipping because there's nothing worse than being like, all right, I only want to spend like $200 or $100, and then you end up in a place where you're getting to the shipping point and you're like, oh, now it's another $10 for shipping. Psych. Don't even worry about that. Use the code, get free shipping. They just got a whole lot of new like rifle mounts and magazines and stuff, like everything that you need. ObsidianTactics.com. But did want to just take a second to recognize those guys. But what you should know is that Costly Conversations podcast is going on a hiatus. This is the season finale. I think it's a great episode, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. But so you can make sure you're in the loop, because YouTube is funny. If I take 2-3 weeks off, they might not send you the notification when we do this again. So make sure you are subscribed. Please, just it's not hard. It's free. What are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button. And also, there's like a little bell notification thing. Just hit that and hit all, because if you leave it the way it is, they'll send you something if they think you might be interested in it. And I really don't do a lot of shows / do a lot of stuff on this channel except for the podcast and maybe some clips. So it's not going to kill you to have the bell notification on. Also, make sure you're subscribed. And also, one thing that I did want to announce, with the way Instagram has been banning and shadow banning the Armed Atlas account and also the Costly Conversations podcast channel account, we do need to make some changes to the way we do things. We found a new platform called locals.com, or the Locals app, and we are there. We are there under the Armed Atlas community, where you can actually join for free and get access to a ton of free content. I really don't want to, gate any of that stuff off, or at least a majority of it. There's going to be some things that are limited to paid supporters. If you do want to do that, it's like $5. It's nothing crazy. I don't want to make it some challenge for you to kind of join us in what we do. If you love the podcast, maybe that's something you do want to join us in. But if you really just want to join us and just maybe be able to catch the content, catch a lot of behind the scenes stuff, some of the segments that get cut for time, especially on the gun side, join us there. We're going to do some live stuff there. We're going to do some extra segments and make sure that you guys are getting value out of just following us there. So locals.com, it's a pinned comment in the live stream tab. Go ahead and just click it and make sure you're there. And I love you guys. All right, back to the show. So Gut Punch Barbie, Charneta Samms, right? It's Samms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Such a cool last name. I'm almost jealous. But we have so many people in the comments dropping really good comments and questions, including one She Fires, who said, I am petite and I have a really difficult time carrying. Nothing has helped so far. And I get that. There's part of that is like gun size. Like, okay, so what are we going to carry? We're going to carry like a Glock 43 or a P365 in the original setting. And I'm actually, I think she's got all that, right? And like part of it is like, do I have to wear a fishing shirt, right? So I do want to talk a little bit about carrying techniques as a lady. I know you don the title of a bigger person. You said that, not me. I didn't say that. And then there was, I mean, even as we're talking about being maybe a really petite person, maybe there are some similarities there. According to my friends at Filster Concealment, we had an episode with them I guess a few months ago at this point. Great conversation. There are some techniques like peaks and valleys and things like that. You just have to be able to put the gun there. What are some things that you found that actually help you, or are you just kind of like still floundering, not really quite sure what to do for yourself?
I definitely think I'm still on my journey, but I've found I love the Enigma system. I finally made it work for me when I'm wearing dresses because I like to live my life in dresses. But when I have to wear pants or a belted situation, I'm still kind of figuring out what works there. The Enigma could work, but it doesn't allow me. It's too deep concealment for me from a pants perspective. So I'm still trying to work that angle. But for dresses, my Filster Enigma setup is all day, every day. I started stop fighting my what I call my tactical fluff and started
Hmm.
using that to my advantage to use that to hide my gun. So I think that that definitely made the difference for me. But I do feel for more petite women, especially ones who have like a flatter stomach and maybe a lesser size breast. And so it is harder to put something kind of in the front. But there's definitely things and ways, and if you're not following the Filster Concealment Workshop on Facebook, you got to get in there because there are so many different people, different sizes who are showing the way, and not just with the Enigma, but with other systems as well. And Filster, they're doing so much in training people on how to better conceal. Like, you got to follow them on YouTube. You got to watch their videos. I mean, they are the truth when it comes to educating people on the principles of concealment. And one thing I did learn from Sarah and John was talking about the ratio of concealment. So the gun you're actually trying to conceal, there's just certain things you're just not going to be able to conceal a large gun if you're a smaller person. So you just really do have to think about the gun you want to carry, and talking about the concealment ratio. So basically, I believe it's from the width of your hips to the width of the gun, and then it's like you do that division, and then a certain percent. So 35 and lower is it's a good gun for you to be able to conceal. Anything higher than that, you're probably going to have a challenge with. So thinking about the gun you actually carry and then where you carry it are really important principles to think about. And so I know sometimes we just want to carry the gun we want to carry, but you got to be realistic too, especially if you're on a smaller person. Bigger size person, you have a lot more options. Like I said, I just stopped fighting my tactical fluff and started going with it. But I do think this is something I've been taking a lot more classes and doing a lot more educating myself so I can help other people, particularly ladies, understand and do a better job in concealing. So I'm looking forward to moving into this new fiscal year of offering more opportunities to help people learn how to conceal. So having some concealment workshops with all the things I've learned from the classes I've taken, and just the education I've been giving myself in trying to do a better job of concealing. Especially now, Maryland, starting October 1st, we no longer
Hmm.
have the option of open carrying. Even if you
Ooh.
have a permit, it will be all concealed carry. So I
Mm.
think it'll be even more important for people to understand the principles of concealment and how they can do a better job doing that.
Yeah, I think at least for me personally, concealment has been really an interesting journey. And you would think it'd be super easy for somebody like me. It's like, oh yeah, he's kind of got the broad shoulder look, and so and if you see me just chest up, he's like, oh, he probably carry whatever he want. He probably carry a Glock 34 with an extended magazine. Yes and no. Like I can, but it's not going to conceal the right way. And right now, I've
Mhm.
been doing a lot of testing on the Glock 45, which is a 17 Glock 17 grip with a 17 round or whatever, and that one is really hard to conceal with the wrong shirt. And I carry that gun concealed for some of the security work that I do at my church, and it's I have to be sure, like, okay, am I going to wear a denim shirt? Can I size up one size? What shirts can I wear in my true size, like XL? Or do I
Mhm.
need to go to double XL with a certain t-shirt style or certain button-up style? Is there a pattern in there? Because the patterns break up the print
Mhm.
tremendously. And most
Mhm.
people, if you do it the right way, can't tell. But if you wear, like a schmedium, like, oh my gosh, like that's not how you carry a gun. Like, don't do that. And
Well,
I
it's
had
so
to be
funny.
really honest with myself that I could no longer wear the same shirts I wore when I was 21.
Right, right, right. I tell people all the time, it's like when you first start carrying, you think everybody can see your gun. It's just like there's those. I was definitely that person. Like I was like everybody can see my gun. I don't know what I'm. I just feel nervous, but very few people think about that. Particularly in Maryland, we have that kind of advantage where for so long people did not carry guns because very few people had permits, and so I tell people all the time, I was like people that are going to probably notice that you have a gun if you're doing a decent job concealment are other people that are carrying guns. So it's like a secret club. It'll give you a look like,
Hmm.
okay.
I
I
see
see you're
you.
going to something like that, right? But they're not going to tell on you because
Oh my
it's a
gosh.
community thing, right?
Like
We
that
all
would
got
be
feeling each
insane.
other out,
He's got
right?
a gun. What?
Exactly. What do
Sir,
you mean?
you do
Right?
too. I see the AR-15
Exactly.
sticking out your pants. Like
Exactly.
that actually really pisses
So
me off.
yeah,
People who
so it's
carry
just
ARs
like
in their
getting
pants. It's so dumb.
over that, but
Yeah.
just but I think the key is sticking with it and
Mm-hmm.
really working towards it. And then for women, it's like we don't wear the same thing every day. Like we wear
Mm-mm.
suits and pants and dresses and skirts, and so we have all these options. So you're not going to typically have one concealment option. There may be different things. Like if you want to wear a halter top, then you're going to probably wear something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really thinking about where your peaks and valleys are, where your clothes are going to drape and where they're not, and then finding that for yourself, depending on the size gun you're going to carry, and then just making it work for you. There's so many more options these days. I mean, my frustration a couple years ago was everything was just wear belted pants, Charnetta, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I hate
That's
pants, and I definitely hate belted pants.
a lot of what I do with my day job involves me wearing basketball pants. Not because I'm 12, but because that's just part of what I have to do with my day job. And
Mhm.
if I want to carry on body, that means grabbing my filster or grabbing one of the alias beltless systems or one of the more common beltless systems that are out there and kind of going to work like that. But even then, there are issues like how do you use the bathroom? People don't think about that. People
Mhm.
people don't think about that. And there
Right.
are answers for that, but
Yeah.
do we have people who are willing to talk about it, willing to ask questions, and say the quiet or uncomfortable part out loud? It's like what my biggest annoyance is when you're in Texas, where I am, and it's 113 heat index 117, and you're carrying a gun. Doesn't matter what kind. Doesn't matter what kind. And now you take it off at the end of the day, and there's just sweat just everywhere, like in the holster, on the grip. Somehow a little bit got past the sweat guard, and you're just like, wow, there's a lot of sweat. And I was miserable. I wonder how you feel, like. So,
Right.
and it's like, man,
Yeah.
if I had to draw this thing, it would just be like flopping like a fish. It's soaking wet. Like, it's horrible. So there's so many questions with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I have been going back and forth. So we do have a YouTube channel, Honey Bear Tactical, and mostly Full Metal Sensei Lewis has most of the content on there now because I've been like, all right, I need to do this video. I'm going to do this video. I'm going to do this video. So I have
Mm-hmm.
all this content. I just need to post it. But one of the ones I do want to do is talk more about concealment, especially for being a bigger size woman. But
And you have a
I dread
unique
the comments.
platform.
I dread the comments. I know exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a bunch of comments, and I'm going to be like, yeah, but I have to just let it go. Just ignore the horrible comments that I know are going to come and just roll with it because it's information. I think I have a message. I want to share it and I'm just going to do it.
It's
But
such a sacrifice. It really is. Like to say,
it
like I'm
is.
going to
It's like,
ignore my natural human instinct of avoiding like the pain of what amounts to humiliation, like public humiliation, and almost inviting it, except that it's not like you're clearly not inviting it. Like you're just saying and
yeah,
presenting stuff for a
sharing
specific
information.
market, right? Where this is the knowledge transfer, and
Mhm.
people, especially people who are big on that, who would kind of come out the side of their neck to say something stupid like, "Oh well, just lose. You want to carry better. Lose a little weight." It's like, duh. It makes it a lot easier to carry appendix if there's at least some sort of level plane to kind of work with. But guess what? Not everybody is there. I mean, blame the FDA, okay? Like, blame big food. Or blame my medical condition or whatever it is that has kind of put us in this situation
High
where so many
fructose
of us are
corn syrup.
right. Like
Everything.
all these different things that are out there contributing to, some of us being chronically skinny or not being in the fitness level that we want to be, or some people are stupid fit, and maybe they're still bigger, right? When I say
Mhm.
fit, strong, like very
Yeah,
strong.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Because a
Yeah.
lot of people, like, I know, even when I've always been on the bigger side, but I was definitely healthier
Hmm.
and bigger than I am now. But it's just like, but that doesn't negate the fact that I want to carry my gun. So
Right.
give me the space and opportunity to do that. and then I'll also work on my health. Thank you very much for
Yeah, we
your
can do
advice.
both. We can walk and chew gum. Like, come on, like,
Right, right, right,
it,
right. Yeah. So, but
and
I
so
think it's just it's sad that there's just not a lot of people that are out there sharing that information, because there are people
because
like
I
you
know.
can appendix carry even though you're on the bigger side. It's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
So,
absolutely right. One thing I did want to talk about before we kind of get to a point where, well, I'll just say this for anyone who's watching, we're going to maybe take 2 or 3 or 4 questions towards the end. I see 1 or 2 up top in the comment section, but we are going to make sure that we take a few more if you guys have them. So if you have any questions for Charneta or for both of us, drop it down below in the comment section. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want to follow up and have more conversations. Maybe we invite her back and we can keep this thing going. But while we are waiting on anyone who maybe has a question in the live stream, I know you said something about don't need to own a gun. For there are some people, men, women out there who would say to themselves, I don't need to own a gun. I know how I am. Like, what's that conversation even like? Like, are you uncomfortable after meeting somebody who says that and you're just like, oh, are you a psychopath? Or is it like okay, this person, will they ever be at a point where they can, safely and responsibly carry a firearm? Like, what's that conversation like? What are you thinking? Take us through that.
yeah, usually it's people that are not trying to get a permit or not actually trying to carry guns. So I'm better with those conversations. Very few people who have actually come into like a class or taken lessons with me have said something like that. But I usually just kind of look at them and go, "Are you serious? Like, do you honestly think that you would be in a position where you could do something like that?" And so, like, really thinking about, like, listen to what you're saying about yourself, and that you don't have the mental restraint to not harm someone else simply because of words that were spoken. And so it's like, that's something you might want to work on. Like, that's the conversation I kind of have, and the look I give them is like, hey, well, it doesn't matter whether or not you carry a gun or not. Like, you should probably work on that for your own self, because why would you ever want someone else to kind of dictate how you behave, and how you're going to respond in the world? Like, if you allow people to get your ire up that much, like that, there's bigger issues for yourself. Like, you're just going to be unhappy because you're constantly allowing people around you to decide for you how you're going to be in the world. And so
Ooh,
I tell my stepdaughter all the time, I was like, we don't allow people to dictate who we want to be as a person. You be
I
the
love that.
person you want to be in the world, and don't let somebody else change that because of their behaviors. And
Wow.
if you live your life that way, I think it's just more, it's better. Just, you're happier.
Yeah. And I think people do have a hard time with, you know, finding that happiness, finding that joy, and then finding peace, right? And somebody might say, well, you guys are carrying guns, so clearly you don't want peace. Well, I think first of all, that's a dumb thing to say, but
Yeah.
I've heard it before. So don't do that. Don't embarrass yourself on Joe Biden's internet. Come on, man. And my big thing is like what you said, like who are you? Like who are you like actually? You know, and maybe you do need to take care of your mental health. And, if you have some sort of underlying issue that you are easily angered to the point of like actual violence against humans, like you should probably call. A lot of people for their job they have like a mental health hotline where they can get
Mhm.
like free, a few free sessions depending on the issue. And some people hack it where they will call in for like a slightly different issue, but it's the
Mhm.
same issue and continue to receive care. Which
Research and say, what you
I'm
gotta
all
do?
for that. I'm
Do
all
what you
for
gotta
it.
do.
Like if you
Exactly.
don't want to spend 30 to 80 to 120 or however much the market is in your area to speak to a professional, do what you have to do and make sure that you are safe for you, you're safe for your family, and you're safe for your community. Because nobody wins if you haven't bowed down. Like nobody wins. So
Mm-mm.
get the help you need. I support it. Like there's no shame in that. So that's where I
No,
am.
not at all. Mental health is has been such a taboo subject in our community for a very long
Yeah,
time, and I'm
so
so
true.
glad there's so many celebrities that are speaking out about mental health and making what I hope feels like a safer space for people
Hmm.
to seek the help that they need, particularly if you are a person who carries a firearm. Like there's communities now that are focused on, hey, if you're in a situation where you feel like you want to do self harm and you own a gun, we'll support you. We'll take your guns and store them away from you so you don't have that option. So I mean, I think there's just a bigger, more open community that's really making space for people to be able to have the conversations that they need to have and get the help that they need without giving up their Second Amendment rights. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. We want to just acknowledge that DJ Play Nice was kind enough as a moderator on this live stream to post the mental health crisis hotline. Dial 988 or 1-800-273-TALK. If you don't want to talk, you can text TALK to 741-741. Local help is always available if you dial 211. Hashtag someone cares. Thank you, DJ. So that'll be in this chat in the live stream replay, and if I can remember, I will try to post it on the podcast side as well. If not, just rewind it. And if you really do need someone to talk to, there it is. And someone does care. Someone wants to make sure that you're here tomorrow, and I think that's important to say. I mean,
Absolutely.
celebrity or not, like it's important to explain that. And I think this generation has gotten a little bit better about acknowledging it, and in some ways overcorrecting, where like we're oversharing now. Like, oh, we don't need to talk to our 2 million TikTok followers about you know how badly things are going. Like that's we can talk to certain people who we can have that conversation with and not overshare in just kind of a weird way, really. And I don't want to
Yeah.
sound like I'm contradicting myself by saying like,
Right, right,
well, don't
right.
overshare now, but no, share, overshare with
No,
somebody, but
I
not
think
like 2 million people.
what I see more in our younger people is
Mm-hmm.
that they're so easily impacted by everybody else's feelings as
Ooh,
well. So
yeah,
they're dealing with their own personal feelings, and then, oh my gosh, the horror that's going on in the world, that is now weighing on me too. And I love that they're so apathetic, like they're so empathetic
empathetic.
in the
Yeah,
sense of, yeah, in understanding and wanting to understand everybody else's plight. But it's like, gosh, honey, you've got to be happy yourself. Like you
oh my
can't take
gosh, yeah,
on the troubles of the world and mess with your own mental health doing that. So it's
yeah,
like, how do you have that balance between having empathy for what's going on in the world, but also keeping your own mental sanity in check? And so, but I
yeah.
think, but you're seeing more and more young people being advocates and doing such amazing things. Like I meet young people all the time in science and technology, just changing the world at the age of 14. And I'm like, at
That's
14,
right.
what was I doing?
I mean,
They're
I,
so
I forget
smart.
how old that kid was, but if you I don't know how you haven't at least heard of it, but in Across the Spider Verse, the sequel to Into the Spider Verse, Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales, one of the scenes was animated by I think he was a 14-year-old kid with
Wow.
Legos, and that a big studio went to this little 14-year-old like, well, who am I, except he's got skill and talent and he's ready to share it with the world in a way that just makes sense. And yeah, it's hard, but you know kids are the future. I believe the children are the future. I was just listening to that
Absolutely.
song. I was just listening to it. Great Whitney Houston song, Gone Too Soon, Whitney
Classic.
Houston.
Yep, exactly. It's a
um,
classic.
yeah,
The message is still relevant to this day.
so relevant. Now, before I think there was like one or two questions I wanted to make sure we hit. But was there anything that you definitely wanted to share before we start hitting questions?
No, I think I said everything. I highlighted all the clubs I'm associated with and the good I want to do. And just, hey, if you are out there and you want to talk firearms or anything like that and women in firearms, I'm available. Gut Punch Barbie on Instagram. Send me a message.
That's right. I love that. All right, so let's do. I don't have like a tone or a sound to transition to the question times. But maybe we'll take the break and get a little ring it a jingle or something like that, right? For that. Where was that question? Cassandra J dropped a really good one. She was asking. Oh, here it is. Cassandra J asked it. I wanted to ask when the next event for Girl on a Gun Maryland chapter is and where.
Oh, so this coming Wednesday, we will have Girls Night Out at Country of Maryland, which is in Owens Mills, Maryland. So exciting. We get together. You can get some dinner if you'd like at our cafe that has some really great food. And then we hit the range and shoot together and have fun. And this one is going to be great because we're actually going to be featured on AFP, which is an international French press agency. And they're going to
Hmm,
be doing a video of basically video report about women and why they want to own guns and want to protect the Second Amendment. So it's an
that's
exciting
awesome.
opportunity to be featured on news if you want to, or if you don't want to be on news, that's fine. You can still just come and shoot and have fun and network. But it's a really
Yeah.
great night where we hang out and just have a lot of fun. So the
I
twenty
think
second.
it's regardless if you want to be featured in the news or not. I think it would be good to go just to kind of show that there are people who are showing up, and it's maybe even too many people are there because they are so passionate about it. So I would show up if you can, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
DJ Play Nice again, clutch. I'll go ahead and post that when it shows up in my other live stream chat. Here we go. agirlandagun.org, HTTP, and then the link is right there. Maybe I'll try to make sure that's in the show notes as well. Um, Perfect. And
And also, I want to shout out my other event, Sisters Shoot, October 14th. That's with the Maryland 10th Cavalry Gun Club. So if you're a new you're a woman interested in learning how to shoot, new, totally, or still kind of learning about it, come on out to Associated Gun Clubs of Baltimore. You can find that one on Eventbrite. So it's
cool.
Sisters Shoot, October
Sister
14th.
shoots.
Sisters Shoot.
Sisters
Hmm.
with an S. Shoot. Gotcha.
Hmm.
All right. Cassandra J with the one more question. One more question. What is a common gun that women might get for a self defense? Ooh, such a loaded question.
Oh yeah, there's just so many choices out there. It really depends on, of course, your size, what you feel comfortable with, what you're willing to practice with. Because that's one thing I tell women all the time. Like we tend to gravitate towards the little bitty cute guns, like the 380 and like purple and Tiffany blue and all that stuff. But will you enjoy shooting that gun on a regular basis? Because you want to be something, want it to be something you practice with. So I strongly recommend something in 9 millimeter. I personally carry the 6 hour P365 XL. That's my gun of choice,
It's a great gun.
but it took me a while to get proficient with that. Yeah, it took me a while to get proficient because little guns tend to be a lot snappier.
Right. And I was looking over my footage because the video's not out yet for those who want to know about it. Although for
Mhm,
my members in the Discord group, they've seen like the first look at that video. So that's why you should be following me on locals and in the private Discord so you can see this stuff before it comes out. Um,
mhm.
I was looking over the footage and I was like so mad at myself. I was like, why is this gun flopping around? Like it felt good to shoot, really good natural point of aim. Like I could shoot it with my eyes closed because it's just a true point of aim, point of impact. But excuse me. But the issue that I ran into is okay, so the gun flops up and then does it come back down to zero? It does reset really well. As in when the slide jumps up, does it come back down to where it's supposed to be? Yes, it does. But that the amount of time that it or the amount of muzzle rise that you have can directly impact your splits or how fast you can shoot. So
Follow shots. Right, right, right.
yeah, and I'm not the
Yeah.
instructor, so forgive me if I sounded like spaghetti pasta or whatever.
You
You
got
know,
the point across. It's all good.
I tried. It just takes longer to shoot guns that flop more, as you can't shoot as fast, and you know,
Right, right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a tough question because it's like what works for me might not work for you. So it's definitely something you got to think about, and it's something
Hmm.
that I help women with all the time. It's like you can come and we'll do a gun consultation. We'll go to the gun counter. What feels good in your hand? What can you manipulate the controls on? What's in your budget? So it's just there's so many factors, but there are some manufacturers I say stay away from. I
Hmm.
won't mention them here because you might future sponsorship opportunities, but
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you this: I would never take a sponsorship opportunity from Sky. I just wouldn't do it.
yeah, that's
I
the
mean,
one I was.
unless they paid me like $1 million. And so if you see them on the channel, that's because they paid me $1 million.
They paid you, right? Yeah, so it's just like I tell people all the time, like gun manufacturers are just like car manufacturers. Like they all have
Hmm.
their reputations, reliability, warranties, stuff like that. I think you need to take into consideration, but you got to find a gun that works for you.
Hmm. Absolutely does. So I know for myself, I actually really liked shooting, and I still shoot it really well. The Hellcat Pro. For some
Yeah,
reason, like the original Hellcat, a lot of people have a hard time with it, but the Pro with some slight modifications can be really an excellent gun. And they
Mhm.
just Springfield just came out with it's a 15 round native magazine, but they just came out with a 17 round magazine that it's pretty much like Flatfish. It fits really well without extending the grip out too much. So I mean, it's already kind of a longer grip. So is it concealed super well? It does. It does.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it shot really well for me. But shooting other guns, you might feel differently. Like, oh, okay, well, I need something that's full metal with a hammer, hammer fired gun.
Yeah, I tend to love heavier guns these days, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to carry a heavier gun on me because that's just a lot. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to have to conceal it. But like my competition gun you see behind me is all metal, and just I love it. Like heavier guns tend to have less muzzle rise, and it helps me get back on target faster, and
Right.
I really enjoy shooting them faster. Glock 43X is another one that a lot of women tend to like.
I really like that gun. It shoots, for some reason, it points a lot more naturally for me
Mm-hmm,
than I would say even like the Glock 45 does.
mm-hmm,
But maybe that's just in my head. Like it shoots well. Unfortunately, the native setup for it comes with less rounds than I want. Like it's 10 rounds natively, and I think a lot of the SIGs are like 12 or 15. Hellcat Pro was 15 rounds, and I'm just like, wait, why are you? I have to reload more. Like I can literally start counting I was like, okay, I shot 5 here. I shot 5 here on like when you're target shooting, like at the range, and now
mm-hmm.
I got to reload. Went through my second mag. Now I need to buy more mags because this is
Right,
ridiculous.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I do know some ladies also carry the Staccato CS. If you want to spend a little bit more money, it's a
listen,
nice gun.
like it's not if you can afford it, and people are really weird. Like even people with money when they get into guns, sometimes they have to be like convinced that spending a little bit more on a premium gun that was made with you in mind that is worth it. But
Mhm.
I've shot the CS. Is any staccato I would say is worth it, considering that a lot of people they take Glocks, they take SIGs, and they put like $2,000 into them in like upgrades to get to that point, and
Exactly.
versus
Gucci
getting the
did
gun
out
that has it all
before we could have
together.
bought the Gucci gun.
Right. So I think the CS is worth it. My biggest problem with them, and I'll say this, and I'm not, I have no deals with them other than we're all friends. When we
Mhm.
get together at the you know trade shows, is their magazines are stupid expensive,
Yeah,
but
yeah. And if you
you
live
don't
in
have to buy
Maryland,
them all the
you get
time.
10 round mags. Like, oh
Oh
my
my
god,
gosh,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I've never thought about that. You pay
10
that much money for a
round.
10 round mag? I would lose my mind.
Yeah, it's
No.
been frustrating. Try to run a competition with 10 round mags.
Oh my gosh, they don't make an exception for like shooting
Well, in
sports?
Maryland, you can possess larger than 10 rounds, but you can't buy them or sell them in the state.
Okay, so you would have to leave the
Yeah,
state,
you gotta go
obtain
out of
it.
state. Yeah, and find your magazine somewhere else.
That
You
sounds horrible. I know my guy Kiwi Dog. He was in here. He's one of the Patreon slash locals members in the private Discord, and he was explaining. He's up in Washington State, and he was explaining the issues that he was running into because they just changed the law. Like imagine being perfectly legal with everything that you own and your plans to buy future products, and all of a sudden it became like illegal. Not because it's directly like the FDA can ban certain things and most things they don't ban that they should ban. Um, like that just makes me crazy. Like
can't.
the FDA doesn't ban things that they should ban, but you want to ban a magazine because somebody misused it, or because you have some sort of weird like mental who doing mental backflips to get to a point where you're like, this will solve our problems.
Yeah.
People are
Most laws
bad.
are reactive. Most laws are reactive. Like you can't take a lion into a movie theater in the state of Virginia because some silly person tried to take a lion into a movie theater.
That is a crazy law.
I believe in Virginia. Yeah, it's one of those silly
Oh
facts.
my
It's like,
gosh.
yeah, but
No doing
that's
backflips off the fountain. Who did a backflip off the
because
fountain?
somebody did a backflip off a fountain.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh. I can't. For some reason, I was just thinking about I wonder if it'll be changed. So I was listening and I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I was listening to the 911 call for when the F-35 pilot who lost control of the plane and had to do an emergency eject and parachuted down, the family who found him called in and was like, "Hey, we have a pilot here. I think he ejected out of his," and the lady had to go through this long checklist of like, "Were you injured? Okay, what limb was injured?" But he was perfectly fine. He's like, my back hurts a little bit, but I'm good. Can you guys go hunt down this plane that might have landed on somebody's house? And then she had to go down this checklist. I'm like, at what point are they going to say, okay, so these are the normal questions if somebody's injured? Now, if there's some sort of like national emergency, like a stealth fighter has gone missing or maybe has landed on somebody's kid, like maybe we should switch to, asking some different questions. Like we
Right.
should probably adjust the rules accordingly. But
Right. And
that's
now
just
switches from "we'll be right there."
right. Right.
No more
Like
questions needed. We'll be there. Where you at?
like don't move, okay? Like, okay, what's your military ID? Okay, don't move. All right,
Right.
like this is who we call. Like I don't know. That's just I know we're
Mhm.
getting a little bit off topic, but that's the mind of Aaron from Constant Conversations podcast. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. So, guys, man, this has been really cool. Like, just as we said earlier, this is the last episode for a little while. So, make sure you have the notifications on. So, when we come back, you don't miss out because YouTube can be brutal like that. And then all of a sudden, like, we've done 20 episodes and you never hear of me again. And that's fine if you never hear of me again. But I think some of the conversations that we're having are important. People like Charneta spending their afternoon, hour and a half with us just to tell us what she's doing and how she's doing and how she's changing the world. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having
Tell
me.
people how to find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Gut Punch Barbie, YouTube Honey Bear Tactical. You can follow Lewis, my partner, at Full Metal Sensei, and also on Honey Bear Tactical. We also have a website, honeybeartactical.com. You can find me Girl in the Gun Baltimore chapter on Facebook. That's where you can join the Facebook group and hear about what we're doing. You can also find us on TMAP, a Girl in the Gun Baltimore chapter, Baltimore, Maryland, and see what else. Oh, you can follow us on Maryland 10th Cavalry, which is our the African American gun club I talked about. So all kinds of ways, but Instagram is my platform I'm really trying to focus on. So Gut Punch Barbie is probably the best place to follow me and catch up with me.
All right. Well, like I said, thank you so much. I hope everybody taps in with you there. And obviously you're an instructor. Part of what you do is you host classes, and I hope they support your business. And of course, if there's any events that are not necessarily business oriented, but more like community oriented, support those too. Because that's if people come out, that's helpful. Like it lets you know that you're having an impact. Of course, one of the last questions that we had was from, well, not questions, but it was Cassandra. Thank you for answering my questions. Great talk. Thank you for showing up. Hopefully we see you on the next one. And so we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Guys, thank you so much for joining us with Constant Conversations. We've been doing this show for nearly 3 years, and it's been honestly my privilege. It's been an honor. This is one of the coolest things I've ever done, to have you here with us, listening to my babblings, and of course, my guest who have really awesome and insightful things to say. Thank you for supporting them. And I hope and I pray that we can continue to do this thing into the next few years. I would love to increase the amount of shows we can do. Of course, some things would need to happen before we do all that. But if you can support for free, create a locals.com profile, locals.com or the Locals app. Join us for free. It's free to follow. And if you are about that life like that, throw the show $5 a month, and that'll be awesome. You can give more. In fact, I encourage it. But $5 is all it takes to get the premium content. But of course, there's content there for free. So guys, thank you so much. And until next time, keep it costly.